everyone, good afternoon. We'll continue our International Conference of Sports Science. Today, this afternoon, we have Professor Maicon here presenting CTE, the new administration, the results, the new directive. And in sequence, we have our international speaker, Daniel Bolosa, that will be intermediated by Professor Leonardo Fortes. Professor Maicon, if you please, to make your presentation about the Centro de Treinamento da UFMG. Thank you so much. It's good to have you with us. Good afternoon to everyone. I'd like to thank everyone who's here. It's good even an online event to have people present so we can exchange looks and see how things are happening. But I also greet everyone who is online. And I received this invitation with a lot of joy, and I would like to thank Professor Franco for the initiative, and also Professor Samuel for everything that he does to our program. To participate in this segment is very important to me. I have very deep feelings towards this program. I've been a student of this program, and now I return as a professor. At this moment as one of the professors who is ahead of the metrics of this program. And after I left the coordination, because I had this opportunity with Samuel, after the C6 program, and we worked in the change of the program, now I have a big challenge, which is to assume the direction of the training center that was called Centro de Treinamento Esportivo da UFMG. During many years, CTE has been treated this way. UFMG's training center, sports training center. And one of the actions of my administration is to change the logo and the look towards CTE. It stops being UFMG's CTE and becomes the physical education, physiotherapy, and occupational therapy school of UFMG's CTE. So this distinguishment for me is very important to understand the role of CTE. So CTE is part of this school, is a great legacy of this school, is a great construction of this school. And in my understanding, it has a very important role in our post-graduation program in sports science. So the invitation came, and I was very happy to be here because after my administration, because I presented CTE when I was running for direction, but this is the first presentation that I make as an official director of the program. So I'll share with you my look towards CTE, and it's very important for me to show you my personal look of this new administration. So let me present a little bit what is CTE. So first thing is to return to the documents that originated CTE. So CTE, it's a national reference in the detection, development, and of sports talents, and dissemination of training methods and generation of scientific knowledge and multidisciplinary knowledge in sports science. So the fact that CTE is inside a university takes it to a different path of traditional training centers. It's not only a training center, but it's a training center that generates knowledge and forms people. We can't forget where this training center is. And it's not just, between quotations, training athletes, but also produce knowledge and form people in different levels. So this is very important to understand. What is CTE's mission? Contribute to the improvement of the results of the high-performance sports in Minas Gerais and consequently of Brazil, promoting the excellency of integrated development of science in sports and applied technologies. If we return to the international literature, what we can see is that the development of sport is connected with scientific knowledge. So it's very important that countries that want to advance in their sports performance need to treat sport with a different look, and this science can bring this different look. And I joke with my colleagues day by day that we're only going to evaluate this information if it's relevant to the decision making of the coach. So even in practice, I need to be very decisive in this practice, because when we decide to apply this information, apply this knowledge, we have quality information, and when we have that, I have a better capacity to make decisions. And the process of developing athletes is a process that we have to make decisions all the time. So what is the athlete going to do? How is it going to train? How harsh will the training be? This is all very important. So what's the vision of CTE? It's being a sports training center recognized internationally by the development of knowledge in sports science. It's very important to understand that CTE is inside the university, and being inside the university brings the role of knowledge in a very peculiar way, in a very singular way, to this training center. So bringing the CTE presentation here in a post-graduation of sports science event is very relevant, because CTE has this role, and I'm going to show this a little bit of this role now. So when we start looking at CTE, what catches everyone's attention is our structure. And who knows, great training centers will realize that our training center is a very robust training center, maybe smaller than many centers, but what we have is of the highest quality. So here, I'll bring the initial beauty of CTE. So everybody who knows CTE, the postcard of CTE is our athleticism track. I like to say that the athletics track, that when we arrive there, we see a lot of people there. It's very good. I like to say that when we have a problem with CTE, like something happened in the infrastructure, we have to do this, we say, wait a second, I go to the track, take a deep breath, look at it, look at that environment, and I come back and I do what I have to do. So I like to show this track. You'll see that this is the new track. This is the second generation of tracks of CTE. So we had the first generation of tracks, and this is the second generation. So when we change generations, we prepare for the challenge that is to get funds for the next generation, because this track has to be renewed every 10 years, because it has a natural loss of quality because of being in the open air and because of the use. And another postcard that we have, and something that CETA has of the most beautiful, because I've known a lot of training centers in a lot of places and some places in the world, and I don't know anyone who has a swimming pool on the third floor of this magnitude. I know good pools. I know pools in terms of structure that they are compatible to this one, but on the third floor of the structure of this size, I really don't know. So if people who are watching know another place that has a pool of this magnitude, I would like to know, because I like to say that this is the most magnificent pool I know, and it makes a lot of sense. And automatically, having a pool of this magnitude on the third floor is a lot of challenge to keep the water always crystalline in the right chemical parameters, keeping this pool warm, keeping this pool with an adequate structure. So any maintenance of this pool is a maintenance that generates costs. It's a joke that this picture was taken right after we changed the illumination here. So an exchange of lamp here is very difficult, because how do I change a lamp in the middle of a pool of this size? So the complexity of this pool is a daily challenge. So the director of CTE is like a director of apartments. So, and being the director is having to deal with these everyday challenges. And I'm bringing you one of the simplest ones, which is to change a lamp. So imagine more complex things, like making a maintenance of a boiler that we can't find the right workers to do that. So it's a great challenge that I like to say that having this structure is also having a lot of responsibility to take care, and we need a lot of responsibility to take care of this space. Here it's a space that I am suspicious to say because it's not inside the CTE structure, but since the beginning, the elaboration of CTE, the fighting sports have been present. And here's our Taekwondo room. And although I have the responsibility of taking care of this space, even before being the director of CTE, I took care of this space to make sure the athletes had the best training conditions here. Another point that catches the eye, we not only have physical structures. So I brought here to illustrate that we have materials, equipment that are different of most people, of most places, most training centers. Here I brought the Taekwondo protectors. There are very few structures in Brazil that the athletes have access to the electronic protector. I work directly with this sport, and I know that there's a difference. It's a differential. Hit this protector, knowing how to hit it, what is the strength that I have to put, what place to hit. So it is very important to train day by day with this equipment. And also it's another challenge because a set of these electronic protectors is costly, is expensive. And people don't have these protectors because it's not easy, because it's an elevated cost. And when you manage to get that, and our athletes manage to get that, the Taekwondo changes the brand, changes the level of performance. And I like to say, and I like to show this difference by saying that the Olympic and Paralympic Games was made with another brand and not Daido. And this is an important case that we had athletes to fight that they weren't able to hit the protectors. And the moment that they need the most, these conditions, sometimes they don't have. So one of the challenges of CTE is to be in the vanguard of having what is best for our athletes. So this is also a great challenge. Another challenge, and it's an important challenge that I'd like to point, is the paper of medicine. Here we have a part. Our office is reformed, but I didn't have the condition to take the new picture. But having a doctor available in the training center is fundamental, and we spent a few time with little time without having. But in this new administration, we managed to bring this professional back, to bring it here. And why is the medical professional so complex? It's complex because we don't have in our unit doctors working. And in the medical school, we need to rely on professors of other schools, of their units. So it's not easy to keep the medical office, but it's very important. And we can forget the other units, the other professionals, but in the other professions, the workers, they work naturally there. But I'll show later about the multidisciplinary team. But I would like to show here that we have an echo Doppler. We have a CGI there for the medical professor that's going to act there to have the conditions to take care of our athletes. Although we can imagine the athletes that they're all physically active, that they don't have health problems, it's just, you just need to talk a little bit with people who are in CTE, the importance to look over this. The chance for them to have something more serious is it's common even in athletes. Here we have other structures that I like to point. Here our physiotherapy room, our force training room, our deposit, the recovery room, and our auditorium. These are places that we need to take care. These are special places, and they are extremely important for our day by day. I like to bring this picture of our force training room. And this is a personal sadness that is in the moment. And I'll show you which moment we lost judo inside of our structure. We had a judo team that was advancing very well, but in a moment in our history, we were surprised and we lost our judo team. But I always like to remember that judo is important. The judo team is important. They were very important in the implementation of what CTE was, and I will never forget this, and maybe someday we'll have them back here being part of our program. I like to say that our heart is there in our multidisciplinary team. So a challenge that we have, another challenge we have on our administration is keeping this multidisciplinary team unite, motivated, and keeping them full of students. So we know that in order to have that, it is a huge challenge to bring funds to keep the structure, but I don't understand, and since its conception, the people who came before me also don't understand CTE without their multidisciplinary team. Today it is formed by nutrition, coordinated by Professor Marcos Drummond. It's strange calling him professor, but here we have medicine with Dr. Milena, Professor Milena, that came from medical school and today is part of our team and is worried a lot about our team. Here we have physiotherapy with Professor Juliana and Professor Renan, who are two professionals that I admire a lot. Here we have psychology. We have our friend Franco, who is a long-time psychologist, and I like him a lot. And this week I showed a student my story and how I didn't tell my story. She wanted to know a little bit about that, so I went there and told her the story. And so you see how Franco is young. He was my conclusion paper orientator. So he signed my monography. So Franco has been here for a little while. So Franco has been my orientator. Here we have Fabiana in nursery, coordinating this sector. That receives everything, that is always available, always smiling. So almost everything around CTE passes through nursery. And I like to point that a good part of everything here, we already had a lot in literature, we had a lot of experience to act, but nursery in sports contests there isn't. So Fabiana, with the professionals that are there, they do an amazing job. It's not just a nursery job. It's a nursery job in the sports training center. So there are its particularities, and they do it with excellence. And in the end, but not less important, otherwise people will be very unhappy, it's the people of physiology that they have a great challenge, which is how to serve everyone with a huge demand, and we have a lot of possibilities. So how to act, what can we do, what are we going to do? So this area has a special challenge because of the volume of things to do. We have an expansion necessity. It's important to think about that, but today in the CTE structure, especially the physical structure, we have problems for this to happen. So, but we are thinking about solutions. And I always say that a social assistance in the training center, because of the people who are there, is very important. So I hope that one day, in another moment, I am putting here a social assistance professional. Because another very important point of CTE is its social role to change people's lives. So what is the role of CTE? So CTE's role is to provide the necessary support to the training of high-performance sports team, offer training opportunities to national and state teams, as well as athletes and teams of a high performance in different categories. So when we talk about a junior national team, you're talking about high performance. Oh, high performance is just a dude athletes. No. To get there, you have to go through a path that is not easy. Who works with sports know that how this path is not easy, how this process is complex, and having this structure is fundamental. Continuing to guarantee the physical, technical, and human resources structure of high level, and to promote the youth sports, seeking the captation of talents, and consequently the improvement of our sports results. So here I like to bring, uh, I like to talk about high-level human resources. And some people say that depending on the context, you don't have to be the best of the world to act in the process. But in the high-performance sport that seeks performance and result, but because improving the performance, I know many people who can improve performance. For example, I am a runner and I want to train to improve my performance. That's cool, that's nice, and that's correct. But an athlete is the one who wants to improve his performance to get a medal, to get a result. So we call people athlete, but it's not everybody for me that is an athlete. I think an athlete is a person that not only wants to improve their performance, but also wants to get a result. So it's not just running 5 kilometers in some time. It's running 5 kilometers better than everyone else. That's what we are calling athletes inside the sports training center. So I think it's important to get to make this very clear. So facilitate the capacitation of human resources. So I like this obligation of our institution to capacitate people. It's one of the pillars of our university, not only in the training center, but in the whole school and the whole university. Assure practical opportunities. So there is a very important speech that says that the competitive sport and the performance sport is exclusive because only one or few get a medal. But it has to be inclusive in its opportunization. So people have to have access to it. A lot of studies show that having a training center close to home makes a lot of difference. A silly example, but also very extreme. No Brazilian has a condition to have a hockey athlete. Sadly, no, because in Brazil there is no access to a hockey facility, a hockey training facility. So opportunize this possibility of access near people, where people live. So transportation. So people who work there day by day, they know how hard it is for some of the kids to get there, to get to CTE, because CTE is not in a place with an easy public transportation access. There is no neighborhood with people around, so this is important. And we also want to offer the sportive community of Minas Gerais and Brazil and space to make sports events. We also have the goal to create opportunities for the development of national sport. This is very important. The CTE role for the development of our sport and make viable actions for the development of studies. This is also important. And contribute for the interaction of the university with other entities like the sports ministry, like the Olympic Committee, the Paralympic Committee, where we have this role and we like to have this relationship. Although with some of them we have a very strong relationship, others not so much, but CTE has its doors open to receive and work with diverse partners. So I'll make a timeline here. So for people who don't know, I always like to say that just the fact that you go to the CTE, you don't necessarily know CTE. I go to CTE very often, but only recently that I've been starting to understand CTE. And preparing this presentation was something that helped me understand CTE because I had to seek information. And I like to point some of them. First is the inauguration of the athleticism track. If people think that CTE was It started all at the same time, for the surprise of a friend that was not here. When they started, but the athleticism track got ready first. So the project started with this, and it was built with states funds. And the first support of the federal government came in 2012 for athleticism. The aquatic park was only ready in December 2015, so it takes a lot more time for the aquatic part to start. So here we have athleticism meeting. So I like to show Olympic athletes being CTE using the space for a competition. Something that we're very proud of is that the Olympic and Paralympic British team were in CTE. I had the pleasure to see some news from that time. And it's very nice to talk about, to say that the British team complimented us a lot. There were many compliments, and so if people are curious about it, just Google British team in UFMG, and there will be a lot of nice stories. And it's very good that people from abroad, they recognize our role of something that is very special. Something that is important is that UFMG was among the 50 best of the world in sports science, and part of this is of CTE's visibility, not only in academical terms, but also because of the British team that was here. So it gave us a visibility that UFMG didn't have, especially out in sports science. And here we have the Polish team visiting us and preparing for competition in CTE. And part of our equipments are Polish, and I'll show why. And here we received the Polish team to make their preparation. Here, we won an architecture prize. Oh, our aquatic park won an architecture award. And it's expected, considering that architecture, because when people who pass there, they know that it's something big, but a lot of people can imagine that there is a swimming pool on the third floor. So it is very interesting, and it's very hard to imagine that. So it's important to award the people who managed to do that. So this is something we're very proud of. Here we had the exchange of the track. So it came resources for our track. Here, so we had the first generation track, now we have the second generation track. And this is important, the role of Professor Andressa, that is the insertion of the Paralympic project, people with disabilities, and the insertion of people with disabilities in the project. And many things that are happening today is because someone gave the first step to start the training center. And at the same time, we start the reference Paralympic Center with a very close relationship with the Paralympic Committee. So these are two points that we need to point out because of this, CTE became more complete. So CTE only gets to its goal also when he puts people with disabilities in the high performance sport inside the sports training center. Here we have a huge challenge, which is leaving the training center with the pandemic, so we had to adapt. Here are online sessions. So it was a big challenge, and every people made their best to be present. And a point that catches our eye is the returns. When people started to come back to CTE. So I'll take a little jump here to talk about this return. So since UFMG and the training center had a little bit of autonomy for this return and had its liberation anticipated in comparing to other clubs, Olympic athletes made their preparation during this period in the training center because the clubs were not allowed to work. So our training center had a fundamental role, and we're very happy. And here are some news showing and the importance of CTE in that moment. Here, I like to point at our athlete, Bruna, that she managed to reach the adult team, adult national team. She went to the Pan American Games in Mexico with our national team. So she was our first adult athlete to be in a national team. So it's something that we're very proud of. And Bruna today, she is no longer our athlete. She doesn't practice Taekwondo anymore, but she will always be part of our story as an athlete who got there. Here we have Bella. Bella had already been in Lima in 2019, and she's our representative in Tokyo. She was in the Paralympics of Tokyo in 21, and we're very proud of her, who also returned to the national team. She was also in Paris representing us, so it's an athlete that I would like to put here in evidence. Here in 2022, in February 2022, it's the end of our Olympic project, so the fund that we received for our project, it wasn't renewed. We don't receive this fund anymore, so it was also a great challenge. It was already part of our organizational structure, and here was a big hit for us. It's a moment of restructure to look to new possibilities. And here we start looking for new paths, and we are still doing it, and with a lot of less uncertainties that we used to have, and try to get this new funds. And I like to bring the sports incentive law. That was a new way for our athletes. Not our structure. Our structure is a lot related to Fundep, the role of Fundep in this process. Here we have Juliano in 2022. He was a main athlete of the national team in the World Championship. So CTE had a representative that started here. Juliano started here, and he arrived in the national team in the World Championship, representing our space, our path. So I like to bring him. Here's one of the stories that I like the most, is Chris's story. Chris comes here to bring out her joy. I like to see her smiling. I don't have time to talk her story, but her story is beautiful. And if anybody has the opportunity to listen to her tell the story, it's very nice. She is the Brazilian recordist in weightlifting. So it's a path with a lot of glories. Chris, who was in the Dubai Championship, World Championship. We had two athletes in the World Championship, weightlifting championship. And here in 24, the end of the Paralympic program with the federal government. So the same situation that happened with the Olympic sport, the Paralympic, also happened with the Paralympic sport. And here we have Bella, Carol, and Arthur. In 24, they traveled to the Paralympic sports in Paris. And with 3 participants, we come back with 2 medals. So seeing them return, seeing the role of CTE in these people's lives, seeing how much it changed their lives, this is priceless. People, us who work with high performance sport, and seeing people change the level of their performance and change their lives and bringing a legacy, leaving a legacy, this is very important. Just a little taste. Take a look at this, please, if we can turn up the volume. First, look at the size of the structure. Look at that structure in the Paralympic sports, in the Grand Palais. This one was when the French athlete tied up the match. The final of the Paralympics, Brazil and France, in France, with nobody less than Ted Hinet, one of the greatest French athletes in the gymnasium, in the gym. I like to point another scene. Keep it rolling, but Carol, right after she got her medal, she went in the adversary, who was her friend, asked her to take her flag. Sometimes the sport is so cruel that sometimes the second place ends up being sad and the third place ends up being happy because the second place loses the last fight and the third place wins. But Carol went there and asked her to get the seat. And she asked her to get her flag. And it's very nice to see, like, she's saying, get your flag, go get your flag. The shame that it's not a good image, but who saw the video has told her, get your flag, let's celebrate together. It's like she was ready for that moment. And the French supporters, they went wild because of this little gesture. So I like to say it's not just the result. It's not just the result that matters, but how this result was achieved and what happened after this result. So the happiest sport moment of her life, she had the capacity to reason and make this beautiful gesture. So here we have a scene. There is Professor Andressa and me. We were there, and we have friends that were there. And people, my friends were watching. They would say, "Yeah, that's it. It's work. It's grip, but it's not grip. It's because we had agreed to make a tattoo. So now I said no. Now we have to do it. We didn't have time to organize this yet, but this is about being strong. But no, this is just a gesture to make a tattoo. And I was saying that mine would be made here in my arm. And it was very difficult, and CTE flag was there, was present there. Another scene that I couldn't leave behind, I got chills when I saw it, is Thiago's. Thiago was raised in CTE. Jamaica there, easy peasy. It's a shame that the quality of the video is not good. Watching this race was very nice. In a sport TV transmission, somebody talking about a man who that we used to see every day. So Thiago, I say this every day to him that seeing Thiago training is very nice. The level that this guy trains, and the quality that this guy trains, the commitment that he has, is an example for everybody that works with sports. And seeing Thiago here getting his place in the World Championship with our national team was something magical. And it's not something very far, it's something that it's here, crossing the street. We have access here. Look how happy he is. In a very uh, complex proof, running the 400 meters. I'm not an athleticism expert, but it's been a while that I've been living in athleticism, and I know, and I've seen what it is to train in this proof. It's not 100 meters, and it's not 500 meters. It's very complex. It's something that I'd like to show here. Here is Vitor. He was silver medal in the school world tournament. Vitor here, getting his place to the university games. So it's a long walk. We showed Juliano, we showed Thiago, we showed Bruna, but here we show Vitor, that it's been with us for a long time. And we have a serious problem here in Brazil, that we only look to sport, to the one who wins. The transitions are complex. For example, a new athlete that has a good development early, he is entitled to a scholarship because he has a good performance. But the transition to a youth category to an adult category is not an easy transition. So, and automatically the athlete loses performance, and of course he loses the scholarship. So he has to battle everything again to earn it again. Moreover, when you achieve the scholarship, it has to be reinvested in your own career, because if you don't do that, more likely you won't have the adequate support that you're supposed to have. So doing sports, doing high performance sports in Brazil, being a high performance athlete in Brazil without being in the most glamorous sports is not easy. So I like to say it's a long way for people of weightlifting, for people of athleticism, and for the taekwondo guys. And they stop being boys and become men and women, and they start to be treated as such, and they start to be asked as such. So this is our future. Carol continues competing in her work and what she proposed to do. Vitor is going to universities. We'll work with him, we'll prepare with him. He's here. Here is Arthur. He got an index for the World Championship. Arthur will be in the World Championship, and Thiago will be in China in the World Championship. So CTE is not just what we planted, and today we can already sow the fruits. Sports not something easy, but here is our way, and it's going further and further. In my administration, we've had fundamental support that we started receiving funds from the federal government again, which gave us an opportunity to renew our multidisciplinary team. So the focus was to work with our multidisciplinary team to give the possibility to work with our athletes. But I like to say something that seems new in this administration. What's new is that CTE, what isn't new is that CTE is not about forming talents. CTE is not the Olympic, it's not the Paralympic. CTE is all of this together. CTE forms people, trains high performance athletes that have gone further, and CTE trains Olympic athletes and Paralympic athletes. So the word that I want to put in this administration and to the future is that we are a unit, because together we are stronger. Together we have better results. Together we have more strength. So CTE, I want it to be sustained not by parts, but by its whole. Because what is beautiful about CTE is its whole, our union, and what we can achieve together. We have few relationships, institutional relationships. Here are just some that I brought here. I would not point one specific, but I would like to thank everyone who believes in our work, that searches for our space, that contribute to our athletes, that we can contribute to them. So there are many relationships today. So I say that today CTE is missed. So if the pool is not available, it is missed. If we close during the weekend to make a competition, it is missed. So what I like to say is, look around. Where can you find a racetrack like this? look around and where you can find a pool like that available for people. So CTE has a very important role. Bringing now to the university, the teaching, research, and extension, that's our triplet. Everything is very clear. I already showed a little bit of our results, but we have very interesting paths. The formation of human resources, so we receive a lot of visitations. We have a lot of capacitation courses. We have graduation students that have access to an internship. So graduation student that is watching there, a post-graduation student, you want to see a high performance athlete train for real, that is not written in the book. Cross the street and go there. You have the opportunity to see Vitor, Carol, and Thiago train. Watch Bella train. So everybody's there. So it's an opportunity that many people don't have. In our time, we didn't have this. This is something that we have to look at. And people have to pay attention to notice how important and special this is. Here we have some of our actions, the Paralympic Festival this weekend. Go there and take a look and see what a wonderful event it is. That is brilliantly conducted by Professor Renato and Professor Andressa. Here we have our coaches, our top coaches. I brought two here as an examples, but it's for everyone. But we also contribute to their formation. So when a multidisciplinary team is together with a coach talking to them, we have an informal formation that, as we saw in our dissertation with Darla, and we have something that is priceless. So our coaches, they are the top, they are international teams because they have the opportunity to work there and improve their work. So CTE is not just a space for the formation of formal formation, but it's also informal formation that is also very important for the formation of trainers. I'll bring two professionals here that I'm very proud of. Larissa, who was formed in the program, in the post-graduation program of rehabilitation. She made her postdoctorate with our Paralympic program, and today she works at CTE. I'm so proud of having Larissa there, her quality. Being called to the national teams, giving us problems to organize that, but it's a good problem when we see our professionals and the people we form being recognized. Amanda, that I can tell a lot about her because she was my student. She's very special, a great friend, and I have a very important professional respect to her. Last dedication to the post-graduation award of thesis was Eduardo, making a study in CTE. So CTE is important, and it opens a very important opportunity for those that want to investigate high-performance sport. So I like to point the thesis that was oriented by Professor Andressa. Research, there's a lot of it. So if we can play a lot with some productions, I can't compute all of them, all the productions available. I brought here some as examples that I got randomly, but all published in good magazines and all contributing to our post-graduation program. So I think this is important to point out. It's not just a pretty face. There's a lot of nice things behind it. And research is one of our strong suits that was within our goals, and it's being fulfilled. Innovation, this is a surprise to us. This is a final paper for the course of automation and control engineering. Daniel, that is one of our collaborators. He simply made an automation system for whole CTE. So from my room today, I click there and I know if the ice machine is working. I know the temperature of the pool, and on this day, we were in the final paper defense, and the professors pointing out the quality of the work that is being made there. So we received students, now we're receiving students of the automation and control engineering course because our equipment that simulates an industry, and the students go there, the automation system uh, that Daniel built there and elaborated there, to learn how an industry was supposed to automatize itself. So it's important innovation. In the next days, you see this news. Who lives CTE knows how hard it was to fix the pool boiler. Our new boiler will be now our backup because the heat generation to warm the pool will be made by two micro turbines that will also generate energy for FMG network. It's a huge investment. We're going to generate energy and store energy, and when energy is more expensive, we'll make it more of we'll put it available to FMG. When this energy is cheaper, it will be consumed. So the economy of this process will be huge, and it's part of o FMG Sustentável. It's a technology project that very few people knew about. So I'd like to leave it recorded and shown there. Beyond that, we have a project there coordinated by Professor Andressa. It's a project together with the multidisciplinary team to treat the CTE data. That's one of our great challenges of AMAI and the next administrations, is what are we going to do with this huge amount of data? The amount of information is available, and the amount of information we generate is huge. But how are we going to work with this data, store this data, and viabilize this data to people? So this is a future path that was started by Professor Andressa that was ahead of this project. We got the CNPq fund and the Ministry fund. Well, now to finish the presentation, I'd like to finish with this legacy. If we're here today talking about CTE, this person here had a fundamental role. Today is an event of the post-graduations in sports science that invites CTE to be here. One of the people that was extremely important for the post-graduation program of sports science came from Poland to Brazil to contribute to our program. But the legacy of Professor Leszek is huge. So here's a picture of him, like others, but I'd like to show here the importance of Professor Leszek to the construction. Sometimes here in Brazil we forget a lot of our idols. Sometimes we talk little about Gustavo Kirten and Daniel Diaz, who made a lot to our sports. So I think people sometimes are not so fond of those who have been here. And I want to say how important and how nice it was to sit next to him, to Professor Leszek, in a department meeting. I've had the opportunity to see him angry, and I've also had opportunities to walk with him on the track so he could tell me what I should be worried about, because it was him alongside others, and he had a fundamental role in building CTE, so I thank Professor Leszek. And I like to thank 4 people here that are very important. Professor Sergio, who is a physiotherapy professor, who is not part of our post-graduation program, but I had to talk about Professor Sergio because he gave the opportunity to CTE in a very difficult moment when the resources started to be low. So he gave the opportunity to CTE to rise up. So I'd like to thank here in public for everybody to know the importance of Professor Sergio in this reconstruction. And a lot that I have done is a legacy of him. So here, come here, I'll show you what I have to do. So I was together with Professor Sergio for a while, and that was fundamental for me. In university, we usually don't do that which is prepare the new directors. Professor Sergio had the care to prepare me for this moment. I'd like to thank him, and also to Luciano, who is a guy who almost had health problems because of CTE, because it wasn't getting ready, and the British were coming. And he was here, still he was here every day with his happiness. Uh, the day that we, and also the next one is that we have to prepare for the day when Elida leaves. The directors will come and go, but Elida will stay. We are very dependent of her. CTE without Elida would be chaotic. When she goes on vacation, gets chaotic. It's very difficult to conduct CTE without Elida, and we have to prepare for this moment because she takes care of everything alongside with Professor Sergio. She made an excellent job to keep the structure so we could survive in the hardest time of CTE. And last but not less important, Professor Andressa, that she'll leave a huge legacy, which is to bring the Paralympic Games. I wasn't a person who knew Paralympics. I hadn't had this opportunity before, but through Professor Andressa, she gave me the opportunity to live with Paralympics. And now it's part of my life, it's part of my process, it's part of my continuity working for the Paralympic sports. It was also a personal role, giving opportunity that I had to know the Paralympic sport. So she inserting the Paralympic sport in CTE was very important. In the next timelines, Professor Andressa has to be there because her legacy was very important. Well, to finish, let's video here. So CETA has its doors open for anyone who wants to go there, who wants to know there, bring an athlete. Anyone who wants to see what we have there is very welcome. I am very grateful for this opportunity. I want to say, Professor Frank, that this action was very important. Also, I want to publicly thank Professor Samuel that he done a lot for this program. And he has a lot to work for this program. And a lot of people, when talking about CETE, they talk about the funds, and I tell them to forget about it because our legacy is higher than any 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 expenses. And what we do is invest in people, and people are more important than any expense. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, and see you.